The stars shone brightly over the blue planet of Lumina. This world was the heart of the Lumen Confederation, a peaceful group of alien worlds. For hundreds of years they had lived in peace. Their tall, slender bodies glowed with a soft light as they moved through their crystal cities. Susan Clark stood at the large window of the High Command Tower. Her blue skin seemed paler than usual as she looked at the night sky. Something was wrong. The stars didn't look right. Some were moving in ways stars should not move. "Admiral Clark," a voice called from behind her. "The scanners have confirmed it. The Vorax fleet has entered our system." Susan turned to face Eric Powell, her communications officer. His young face showed fear, but he stood tall. "How many ships?" she asked quietly. "Over 300, Admiral. And those are just the big ones. There are thousands of smaller fighters too." Susan closed her eyes. The Vorax were the nightmare of the galaxy. They didn't build or create, they only took. They consumed resources, planets, and even people. No one had ever beaten them in battle. Once they set their eyes on a world, that world fell. "How long do we have?" Eric checked his datapad. "At their current speed, 5 days until they reach Lumina." Susan walked to the command table where a 3D map showed their star system. The Lumen fleet consisted of only 50 defense ships. They were built for peace, not war. The Vorax ships were shown as red dots slowly moving toward the blue dot that was Lumina. "Call the council," Susan ordered. "We need to meet now." 3 hours later, Susan stood before the 12 members of the Lumen High Council. They sat in a half-circle, their faces grim in the soft light of the council chamber. "There is no way to stop them with our current forces," Susan explained. "We have already called our allies, but they are too far away. Help will not arrive in time." Council Leader Mira spoke up. "What about evacuation?" Susan shook her head. "There are 9 billion people on Lumina alone, not counting our colony worlds. We have nowhere near enough ships to move even a small fraction of our people." The room fell silent. Then an old council member named Daniel rose from his seat. He was one of the oldest Lumens, his skin nearly white with age. "There is one option we have not tried," he said slowly. His voice was weak but clear. "The Earth signal." Whispers filled the room. Susan felt a chill run down her spine. "Earth is a myth," said Council Leader Mira. "A story we tell children." "No," Daniel replied firmly. "I have seen the records. Earth is real. Hundreds of years ago, they helped many worlds fight against invaders. Their ships were more powerful than anything we have ever built. Then, suddenly, they disappeared. They pulled back all their forces and went silent. Some say they were destroyed. Others believe they simply chose to leave galactic affairs. Even if Earth was real," Susan said, "why would they help us now after centuries of silence?" Daniel's eyes met hers. "Because that is who they were. Protectors. They helped those who could not help themselves." Council Leader Mira leaned forward. "Where would we even send a signal? We don't know where Earth is." "Yes, we do," Daniel said. He tapped his datapad, and a set of coordinates appeared on the main screen. "These frequencies and coordinates have been preserved in our deepest archives. I found them many years ago during my research." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some called it a waste of precious time. Others said it was their only hope. After an hour, Council Leader Mira called for a vote. The decision was made. They would send the signal. In the communications center of the High Command Tower, Eric Powell worked quickly. The ancient frequencies were strange to him, using patterns he had never seen before. "This technology is so old," he muttered as he worked. "I'm not even sure our systems can generate this kind of signal." Susan watched him work. Hope was a dangerous thing in their situation, but she couldn't help feeling a small spark of it. "Can you do it?" "Yes," Eric said after a moment. "But this signal, it's designed to travel much faster than normal communications. It uses quantum, properties we barely understand. Whoever designed this was centuries ahead of us even now." Susan placed a hand on his shoulder. "Send it." Eric took a deep breath and pressed the final controls. The message was simple: coordinates, a brief explanation of their situation, and a plea for help. The ancient transmitter hummed to life, sending the signal along pathways in space that the lumens barely understood. "Signal sent," Eric announced. "Now we wait." Susan nodded. "Now we prepare. Signal or no signal, the Vorax are still coming. Ready all defense ships. Begin moving civilians to the underground shelters." The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. The Lumen defense fleet took up positions around their homeworld. Civilians moved into vast underground cities built long ago for just such an emergency. Children cried, not understanding why they had to leave their homes. Parents tried to comfort them with brave smiles that didn't reach their eyes. On the 4th day, the Vorax fleet slowed its approach. Their massive ships formed, a ring around the system's outer edge like predators circling their prey. In the command center, Susan watched the enemy movements. "Why have they slowed down? They could attack now." "They're toying with us," said Jack Miller, her tactical officer. "They want us to feel fear. To them, this isn't just war, it's a hunt." A message came through on their main screen. The face that appeared was gray and reptilian, with yellow eyes and razor-sharp teeth. "Supreme Commander Kraz of the Vorax fleet." "People of Lumina," he said, his voice like stones grinding together. "Your world is now property of the Vorax Empire. Surrender now and we will make your end quick. Resist and we will make it slow." Susan stepped forward. "This is Admiral Susan Clark of the Lumen Confederation. We reject your demands. The Lumens will never surrender." Kraz's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Then you will die braver than most. We attack at dawn." The screen went dark. That night, Susan couldn't sleep. She stood again at the window of the high command tower, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, a signal was traveling through space, looking for a planet that might not even exist anymore. "Admiral," Eric's voice came urgently over her communicator. "You need to come to the command center right away." "What is it?" she asked, already moving toward the door. "Something's happening," Eric said, his voice shaking. "Something impossible." When Susan reached the command center, she found the staff staring at their screens in disbelief. "What am I looking at?" she demanded. Eric pointed to the main display. "At first we thought it was a sensor malfunction, but 3 different systems are showing the same thing. At the edge of their system, far behind the Vorax fleet, space itself seemed to be bending. A massive distortion was forming, like a tear in the fabric of reality. It started 5 minutes ago, Eric explained. It's growing larger by the second. Susan watched, her heart pounding. Is it the Vorax? Some kind of weapon? No, Eric whispered. The energy signature doesn't match anything Vorax, it's something else, something new. As they watched, the distortion grew until it seemed to split open. Through the tear came ships, dozens of them, then hundreds. They were sleek and dark, unlike any vessel Susan had ever seen. They moved with impossible speed and precision, forming a perfect battle formation in seconds. Admiral, Eric said, his voice barely audible. I think Earth heard us. The command center of the Lumen High Command fell silent as everyone stared at the screen. The dark ships that had appeared through the tear in space moved with perfect order. There were at least 50 large vessels and hundreds of smaller ones. Are you sure it's Earth? Susan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Eric worked quickly at his console. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database, but look at this. He pointed to a readout. The distortion they came through, it's exactly like the old stories described. They call it jump space. Jack Miller, the tactical officer, shook his head in disbelief. If these are Earth ships, what do? We know nothing about them. What if they're just as bad as the Vorax? We wait, Susan said firmly. They responded to our signal. Let's see what they do next. They didn't have to wait long. On the main screen, they could see the Vorax fleet turning to face the newcomers. The Vorax ships formed into attack patterns, clearly preparing to destroy what they saw as a new threat. The Vorax are hailing the Earthships, Eric reported. They're demanding they leave the system or be destroyed. Susan almost laughed. The Vorax had no idea who they were dealing with. Suddenly, all communication systems in the command center activated at once. Screens flickered, and a face appeared on every display. It was a human female with dark skin and short black hair. She wore a uniform that was deep blue, almost black, with gold markings on the shoulders. Attention Lumen Confederation and Vorax forces. This is Fleet Admiral Diane Peterson of the Earth Supreme Fleet. We are responding to the distress call from Lumina. Vorax forces, you are ordered to withdraw immediately from Lumen space or face the consequences. The woman's voice was calm but carried absolute authority. Susan felt a chill run down her spine. This was not someone making an empty threat. On a separate channel, Susan could see the Vorax commander's response. Supreme Commander Kraz looked angry, his scaled face twisted in a snarl. We do not recognize your authority, Kraz hissed. The Lumens are our prey. Leave now or be destroyed along with them. Admiral Peterson's expression didn't change. Very well. You have chosen your path. She turned slightly. Commander Gregg, Ellis, you may proceed with the demonstration. One of the smaller Earthships moved forward. It was tiny compared to the massive Vorax command ships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a beam of bright white light shot out from the small ship. It hit 3 Vorax warships at once, cutting through them like they were made of paper. The Vorax ships didn't explode or break apart, they simply disappeared in a flash of light. Gasps filled the Lumen command center. What just happened? Susan asked, her voice shaking. The Vorax ships, they're gone, Jack said, checking his sensors. Not destroyed, gone. Like they were never there. Admiral Peterson spoke again. That was one light frigate with a single low-power shot. You have 1 minute to reconsider your position. The remaining Vorax ships hesitated. Then, as if answering some unseen command, they all attacked at once. Thousands of energy weapons fired at the Earth fleet. Fighters poured out of the larger ships, heading straight for the human vessels. Susan held her breath. No one could survive such an attack. But the energy weapons seemed to bend around the Earth ships, or simply disappear before hitting them. The fighters that got too close suddenly stopped, drifting powerless in space. Amazing, Eric whispered. Their defensive systems, it's like they're controlling gravity and energy itself. The Earth fleet's response was swift and overwhelming. Their ships moved with impossible speed, appearing almost to teleport between positions. Weapons fired that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Some created small black holes that swallowed Vorax ships whole. Others fired beams that passed through shields as if they weren't there. A larger Earth vessel moved to the center of the Vorax fleet. For a moment it glowed with a blue light, and then space itself seemed to fold around the Vorax ships. Dozens of enemy vessels were crushed, like they were caught in a giant invisible hand. Within minutes, half the Vorax fleet was gone. The Vorax are retreating, Jack announced, shock clear in his voice. It was true. The remaining Vorax ships were turning, trying to escape. But the Earth vessels were faster. They surrounded the retreating enemy, cutting off all escape routes. Only the Vorax command ship remained intact, surrounded by Earth vessels. Admiral Peterson appeared on screen again. Supreme Commander Kraz, your fleet is defeated. Surrender, now. Kraz's face showed rage and fear in equal measure. The galaxy believed Earth was gone. We would never have come here had we known you protected these worlds. That was the point, Peterson replied. Earth chose isolation long ago. We developed in peace, away from galactic politics. But we never stopped watching, and we never abandoned. Our duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves, Kraz snarled. You have made an enemy of the Vorax Empire today. Peterson's expression remained calm. No. Today we ended the Vorax Empire's reign of terror. Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are offline. You will surrender your forces and return to your home system where you will remain. If you ever threaten another peaceful world, Earth will respond, and next time, we will not be so merciful. The communication ended. Susan watched as small Earth vessels attached to the Vorax command ship, boarding it. "Admiral Clark," Eric said excitedly. "We're receiving a direct communication from the Earth fleet. Admiral Peterson wishes to speak with you." Susan straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Put her through." Admiral Peterson's face appeared on the screen. Up close, Susan could see that the human had kind eyes despite her fierce demeanor. "Admiral Clark, I apologize for the delay in our response. It took some time for your signal to reach Earth and then for our fleet to prepare for jump." "No apology needed, Admiral Peterson," Susan said, still amazed that she was actually speaking to a human from Earth. "You arrived just in time. We are forever in your debt." Peterson smiled. "We would like to send representatives to discuss the situation in person if that's acceptable." "Of course," Susan replied quickly. "We would be honored." "Excellent. We'll send a shuttle down within the hour. And Admiral Clark, it's good to know the Lumens still remember Earth, even after all this time." The screen went dark. Susan turned to her stunned staff. "Prepare a welcome for our guests," she ordered, "and contact the Council. Tell them the stories were true. Earth has returned." As the staff rushed to obey, Susan looked once more at the view screen showing the Earth fleet. The dark ships hung in space like silent guardians, more powerful than anything she had ever imagined. The legends had not done them justice. Earth had not just arrived. They had taken the stage in a way the galaxy would never forget. 1 hour later, Susan Clark stood in the grand meeting hall of the Lumen High Council building. The room had been quickly prepared for their important guests. The crystal walls glowed with a soft blue light, and the floor had been polished until it shone like water. The council members sat in their usual half-circle, looking nervous but excited. None of them had ever met a human before. Old stories told of Earth's power, but few Lumens had actually seen a human in person, even centuries ago when Earth was still active in galactic affairs. "Remember," Susan told the council quietly, "these humans just saved our entire civilization. Show them the respect they deserve." A young aide rushed into the room. "They're here. The Earth shuttle has landed on the main platform." Everyone straightened in their seats. Susan smoothed her uniform and took a deep breath. The doors slid open and 4 humans walked in. Admiral Peterson led the group, her dark blue uniform neat and impressive. Behind her walked a tall man with light skin and short gray hair wearing a similar uniform with different markings. Next to him was a woman with copper-colored hair, dressed in a white outfit that looked more like a scientist's clothes than a military uniform. The last human was a younger man with dark skin, wearing a uniform with fewer markings than the others. "Welcome to Lumina," Susan said, stepping forward. "I am Admiral Susan Clark. On behalf of all Lumens, I thank you for your help." Admiral Peterson smiled. "Thank you for your welcome, Admiral Clark. Allow me to introduce my team. This is Captain Alan Murphy of the battleship Valiant." She gestured to the older man, who nodded politely. "Dr. Karen Wright, our chief xenobiologist." The woman in white smiled warmly. "And Lieutenant Paul Jones, my aide." Council Leader Mira rose from her seat. "We are honored by your presence. Please sit with us. We have much to discuss." The humans took the offered seats. For a moment no one spoke. Then Admiral Peterson broke the silence. "You must have many questions," she said. "I'll try to answer what I can." "Yes," Mira said. "First, why did Earth disappear? The old records say you once protected many worlds. Then suddenly you were gone. Some thought your world had been destroyed." Peterson nodded. "That was by design. About 300 years ago, Earth's leaders decided to withdraw from galactic affairs. We had been involved in too many wars, too many conflicts. Our technology was advancing rapidly, becoming too powerful. We feared what might happen if that technology spread throughout the galaxy." "So you went into hiding?" Susan asked. "Not exactly hiding," Captain Murphy said. His voice was deep and calm. "We called it the Great Silence. We pulled back all our forces, cut off communications, and focused on developing our world and technology in peace. We wanted the galaxy to forget about us." But you kept watching, Susan guessed. Dr. Wright smiled. Yes, we maintained listening, posts and small observer stations throughout the galaxy. Hidden, of course, we kept an eye on developing situations, and we kept the old quantum beacon network active just in case anyone remembered how to use it. Like we did, Eric Powell said from his position near the door. Exactly, Peterson agreed. Your distress signal was the first one we've received, in over 50 years. It took some time to reach us and then to prepare our fleet. We haven't had to deploy in force for a very long time. What will happen to the Vorax? Jack Miller asked. Lieutenant Jones spoke up for the first time. We've disabled their weapons and drive systems. They're being escorted back to their home system by a small group of our ships. We've placed beacons around their system that will alert us if they try to leave in force again. And now? Council Leader Mira asked. Will Earth rejoin the galactic community? The humans exchanged glances. Admiral Peterson sighed. That's a complex question. Our policy of isolation has served us well. It has allowed us to develop in peace, without dragging other worlds into our conflicts. But seeing the Vorax threat has made us reconsider some things. We won't fully return, Captain Murphy added. But perhaps we've been too removed, too willing to watch from a distance. We're proposing a middle path, Peterson explained. We'll establish a small permanent presence here in the Lumen system, a station with a few ships, enough to deter any future Vorax attacks or similar threats. The council members whispered excitedly among themselves. Additionally, Peterson continued, we'll reactivate some of our old communication networks, make it easier for peaceful worlds to contact us if needed, but we'll still maintain our general isolation. Most of our fleet and technology will remain hidden. Why not return completely? Susan asked. With your technology, you could bring peace to the entire galaxy. Dr. Wright shook her head. That's exactly what we tried centuries ago. It didn't work. When we fought everyone's battles for them, it created dependency. And worse, it sparked an arms race as other powers tried to match our technology. Some of those attempts went very badly. We believe the galaxy needs to find its own path, Peterson said gently. We'll help in emergencies, but we won't try to control or dominate. That's not our way. The discussions continued for hours. Plans were made for the Earth station and the ships that would remain. Information was shared about the current state of the galaxy from both sides. The humans were surprised by how much had changed in 3 centuries, and the Lumens were fascinated by hints about Earth's advanced technology. As the meeting wound down, Susan found herself speaking privately with Admiral Peterson by one of the large windows. Outside, they could see one of the smaller Earth ships hovering above the city. Its dark hull reflected the light of Lumina's sun, making it shimmer like water. That ship, Susan said, pointing. How does it move so quickly? Our sensors couldn't even track it. Peterson smiled. We call it fold space technology. Instead of moving through space, we fold space itself. It's like taking a piece of paper and bringing 2 points together instead of traveling between them. Amazing, Susan whispered. Your people will develop similar technology someday, Peterson said. You're already on the right path with your quantum beacon system. Susan hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering her. Why did you really come? After centuries of silence, why answer our call? Peterson looked out at the city. Below them, its crystal towers glittering in the sunlight. Because despite our isolation, we never forgot who we are, she said softly. Humans have always been explorers, dreamers, and protectors. We may hide in the shadows, but we can't ignore a genuine cry for help. It's not in our nature. She turned to face Susan directly. The galaxy thought Earth was gone. They were wrong. We were always here, watching and waiting. And now that the Vorax know it too, other threats will think twice before attacking peaceful worlds. Susan nodded, understanding at last. Earth hadn't really returned to the galactic stage. They had simply reminded everyone that they were still in the theater, watching from the shadows. And sometimes, when needed, they would step into the spotlight. For the Lumens, and for countless other peaceful worlds across the galaxy, that knowledge alone might be enough to ensure their safety for generations to come. The next day, Susan Clark stood on the landing platform watching Earth shuttles move back and forth between their ships and the surface of Lumina. The humans worked quickly, setting up equipment for the new station they had promised. Already, a small team of Earth engineers had begun building on the far side of Lumina's moon. Eric Powell approached her, his datapad in hand. "Admiral, the Earth technicians have upgraded our defense systems. They say it will be 10 times stronger now." Susan nodded. "Good. Have you learned anything from working with them?" "So much," Eric said, his eyes wide with excitement. "Their technology it's like magic. But they explain it so simply that it makes sense. They don't treat us like we're stupid. They treat us like equals who just haven't had the same time to develop." Susan smiled. That matched what she had seen of the humans. They were powerful beyond imagination, but they didn't act superior. They seemed genuinely happy to help. "Admiral Clark," a voice called. Susan turned to see Lieutenant Paul Jones walking toward her. "Admiral Peterson asked me to bring you to the Valiant. Captain Murphy wants to show you something." Susan felt a flutter of excitement. No Lumen had been invited onto an Earthship yet. "Of course. I'd be honored." Minutes later, Susan sat beside Lieutenant Jones in a small shuttle, rising quickly through Lumina's atmosphere. The shuttle moved with barely any feeling of motion despite its incredible speed. "How long have you served with Admiral Peterson?" Susan asked, trying to make conversation. 5 years, Jones replied with a smile. "She's the best commander in the fleet. Everyone wants to serve with her." "And how long have you been in Earth Space Force?" 12 years. But this is my first actual combat mission. Most of what we do is training and patrolling Earth's solar system. The Vorax were the first aliens I've ever seen fight." Susan was surprised. "Really? You seemed so experienced during the battle." "We train constantly," Jones explained. "With simulators that are extremely realistic. But until yesterday, I'd never fired a weapon at an actual enemy." He looked out the window at the stars. "I hope I never have to again." The shuttle approached one of the mid-sized Earth ships. Up close, it was even more impressive. The dark hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. There were no visible windows or external lights. It simply hung in space like a perfect shadow. The shuttle entered a small opening that appeared in the side of the ship. They landed gently in a bright, clean docking bay. Captain Murphy was waiting for them. "Welcome aboard the Valiant, Admiral Clark," he said with a small bow. "It's an honor to have you as our first Lumen guest." "The honor is mine," Susan replied, looking around with amazement. The inside of the ship was nothing like she had expected. Instead of the cold, military design she had imagined, the walls were warm colors and the lighting was soft and pleasant. The air smelled slightly of plants. "Let me show you around," Murphy said. "We won't have time for the whole ship, it's quite large, but I can show you the important sections." As they walked through the corridors, Susan saw humans of all kinds, working together. Some wore uniforms like Murphy's, while others wore more casual clothes. Many smiled and nodded to her as she passed. "Your crew seems very relaxed," Susan observed. Murphy laughed. "That's one way to put it. Earthships operate differently than most military vessels. We believe in comfort and freedom for our crews. Happy people make better decisions." He led her into a large room, filled with plants and trees. A small stream ran through the center and birds flew freely overhead. Susan gasped in surprise. "This is our garden deck," Murphy explained. "Every Earthship has one. It provides fresh food, helps clean the air, and gives the crew a place to relax. Some of these plants and animals are from Earth. Others we've collected from friendly worlds over the centuries." "It's beautiful," Susan whispered. Their next stop was the medical bay, where Dr. Wright was working with several other humans in white uniforms. "We're analyzing Lumen biology," Wright explained when she saw them. "With your council's permission, of course, we want to make sure our medical facilities can treat lumens if needed." "That's very thoughtful," Susan said. "It's practical," Wright replied with a smile. "If we're going to have a station here, we need to be prepared for emergencies." Captain Murphy then led Susan to the bridge of the ship. It was a large open room with comfortable chairs arranged around a central area. Screens showed views of space and Lumina below them. Officers worked at various stations, but the atmosphere was calm and quiet. "This is where we command the ship," Murphy explained. "Not as formal as you might have expected, I imagine." "Not at all," Susan agreed. "Where is your captain's chair?" Murphy pointed to a simple seat near the center. "Right there, but I rarely sit in it. I prefer to move around, talk to my crew." Susan noticed something else strange. "Where are your weapons controls?" "We don't have dedicated weapons stations," Murphy explained. "Any major systems, including defense and offense, can be controlled from any station. It makes us more flexible in emergencies." After the tour of the ship, they returned to the shuttle bay. As they walked, Murphy grew more serious. "Admiral Clark, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. The real reason I invited you here." Susan felt a small chill. "What is it?" "We've been scanning the galaxy since we arrived. There are other threats out there, not just the Vorax. Some are moving in this direction." "More enemies?" Susan asked, alarmed. "Not immediately," Murphy assured her. "But the news of Earth's return will spread quickly. Some will be curious. Others might be afraid. A few might want to test our resolve." "What should we do?" "Be prepared," Murphy said simply. "The station we're building will help. But your people need to become stronger too, not just with technology but in spirit." Susan nodded slowly. "The Lumens have been peaceful for so long, perhaps too long. We forgot how to defend ourselves." "Peace is valuable," Murphy said. "Earth values it too. But peace through strength is more reliable than peace through hope." They reached the shuttle where Lieutenant Jones was waiting. "We'll help you," Murphy promised. "But in the end, the Lumens must stand on their own. Earth won't be here forever." "I understand," Susan said. "Thank you for your honesty." As the shuttle carried her back to Lumina, Susan looked out at the Earth fleet. They were like silent guardians, powerful beyond understanding. But Captain Murphy was right. The Lumens couldn't rely on them forever. When she returned to the surface, Susan found Eric waiting for her, his face excited. "Admiral, you won't believe what the Earth engineers just taught us about our shield technology. We've been using it wrong all these years. They showed us how to double its power with just a simple adjustment." Susan smiled. "Good. Keep learning. Everything you can from them, Eric. Every bit of knowledge they share is precious." "They're amazing teachers," Eric said. "So patient and clear. It's like they genuinely want us to understand." "They do," Susan replied, remembering Murphy's words. "Because someday, we'll need to stand on our own again." She looked up at the sky, where the Earth ships were barely visible as small dark shapes against the stars. For now they were there, protecting Lumina. But the future was uncertain. The Lumens would need to learn quickly, to grow stronger. The galaxy was changing. Earth had returned to the stage, and nothing would be the same again. 3 months passed quickly. The Earth station on Lumina's moon grew from a small outpost to an impressive base. 5 Earth ships remained in orbit around Lumina, while the rest of the fleet had returned to Earth. Admiral Peterson had stayed behind to oversee the station's completion. Susan Clark had been busy. With help from Earth, the Lumens had begun to rebuild their defense force, not just with better technology, but with better training and a new understanding of strategy. Today was an important day. The first Lumen defense ship built with Earth technology was ready to launch. Susan stood on the main platform of the shipyard, watching as final preparations were made. The ship was smaller than the massive Earth vessels, but much larger than any previous Lumen ship. Its hull was a deep blue, almost black, with the symbol of the Lumen Confederation on the side. "She's beautiful," Eric Powell said, standing beside Susan. In the past months, he had worked closely with Earth engineers and had been chosen to serve as communications officer on the new ship. "Yes, she is," Susan agreed. "What did they name her?" "New Dawn," Eric replied. Captain Miller thought it was fitting. Jack Miller had been promoted to captain and would command the new ship. He had spent weeks training with Captain Murphy on the Valiant, learning Earth's command methods. Admiral Clark. Susan turned to see Admiral Peterson approaching. The human commander looked pleased. Your first ship is impressive, Peterson said. Your people learn quickly. We had good teachers, Susan replied with a smile. There's something I need to discuss with you, Peterson said, her expression growing serious. Walk with me. They moved away from the busy platform to a quieter area overlooking the shipyard. We received a message from Earth yesterday, Peterson began. Our observers have detected unusual activity in several sectors. Ships are moving, gathering. Word of our battle with the Vorax has spread faster than we expected. Are we in danger? Susan asked, concern in her voice. Not immediately, Peterson assured her. But the galaxy is adjusting to the knowledge that Earth has returned. Some see it as an opportunity, others as a threat. The balance of power is shifting. What does this mean for the Lumens? Peterson looked out at the new ship. It means your people need to be ready sooner than we thought. The 5 Earth ships will remain here for now, but I've been recalled to Earth. Our leaders want a full report, and we need to prepare for what's coming. Susan felt a cold feeling in her stomach. You're leaving? Just me for now, Peterson said. Captain Murphy will take command of our forces here. I'll return when I can. She placed a hand on Susan's shoulder. Your people are stronger than you know. In just 3 months, look what you've accomplished. The new dawn is just the beginning. 3 more ships are already under construction. But they're not Earth ships, Susan said. They don't have your technology, your weapons. No, Peterson agreed. But they have what they need. We've shared what we can safely share. Some Earth technology is too dangerous to give away, not because we don't trust you, but because no one should have that much power without earning it themselves. Susan nodded slowly. I understand. Later that day, the launching ceremony for the new dawn began. The shipyard was filled with lumens, all excited to see their new defender take flight. The council members sat in a place of honor near the ship. Earth officers stood nearby, looking proud of their students. Captain Jack Miller stood before the gathered crowd. His uniform was new, a combination of traditional lumen design with elements inspired by Earth military style. Today marks a new chapter for the Lumen Confederation, he said, his voice strong and clear. For too long we relied on peace alone, to protect us. We forgot that true peace requires strength and vigilance, he gestured to the Earth officers. Our friends from Earth reminded us of this truth. They came when we needed them most. They taught us not just how to build better ships, but how to be better defenders of our worlds. Susan watched from her place near the council. She felt proud of how far they had come in such a short time. The lumens were changing, growing stronger. They would never again be helpless victims. After the ceremony, Susan found herself standing with Admiral Peterson near the shuttle that would take the human commander back to her ship. Earth won't abandon you, Peterson promised. Even when I'm gone, the station will remain. Captain Murphy and his team will continue to train your people. When will you return? Susan asked. I don't know, Peterson admitted. Events are moving. Quickly. Earth has been hidden for centuries, but now we've revealed ourselves. There will be consequences. Challenges. Are you worried? Peterson smiled slightly. Earth has faced many challenges throughout our history. We'll face these new ones too. The important thing is that we're not alone anymore. She looked up at the sky, though it was daytime and the stars couldn't be seen. For centuries, we watched from the shadows. Now we've stepped into the light again. It won't be easy to find the right balance, but we'll figure it out. Together, the 2 admirals clasped hands in the Earth way of saying goodbye. Until we meet again, Peterson said. Until then, Susan replied. She watched as the Earth shuttle rose into the sky, becoming a small dot and then vanishing completely. Susan knew that Admiral Peterson's ship would soon jump back to Earth, traveling vast distances in moments using technology the lumens could only dream of for now. But Susan didn't feel sad or afraid. She turned and looked at the new dawn floating above the shipyard, ready for its first mission. Beyond it, she could see the Earth station on the moon, a bright point of light visible even in daylight. And in orbit around Lumina, the 5 Earth ships maintained their silent watch. The galaxy was changing. New challenges were coming. But the Lumens would face them with new strength and new allies. Eric Powell approached her, excitement on his face. "Admiral, Captain Miller wants you to come aboard the New Dawn. He says there's something you need to see." Susan smiled. "Lead the way." As they walked toward the shuttle that would take them to the new ship, Susan thought about how much had changed in just a few months. The Lumens had faced extinction, been saved by legendary guardians, and now were taking their first steps toward becoming guardians themselves. The old stories had been true. Earth had returned to the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. But for Susan and her people, the most important story was just beginning, their own. She looked back once more at the sky where Peterson's shuttle had disappeared. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she turned and stepped into the future that Earth had helped the Lumens create for themselves. It was time for the Lumens to take the stage alongside their new allies. And Susan knew that whatever came next, they would face it together,